Have you ever been attracted to someone and they turned out to be not the gender that you're typically attracted to? I've often shared that I'm very tragically heterosexual on here. I've definitely found myself in several situations where I'm speaking to someone and they share with me that they do not identify as a man. And I've learned from attempting to date people that I'm attracted to who don't identify as men, that is usually a recipe for disaster. So a lot of times on my dating profiles, I will literally say that I'm attracted to men who love being men, who have unpacked toxic masculinity. But this is not my therapy session. We're here to talk about someone else's life. A story about a feminine gay man went viral in my feed, and I thought that we'd bring it over here and have a couple of conversations. But of course, I am getting ahead of myself as per usual. Hi, my name is katblaque, and I like to think that I make content for introspective hot people, of course. And if you're here, I'll assume that's you. And if you're brand new here, you know exactly what to do if this video pleases you. You just click my button and join us right here on the channel. So we are going to discuss a viral topic that has been dominating my feed, Donnie and his ill-fated date with a heterosexual man, presumably a heterosexual man. Donnie is a very feminine gay man. I mean, he's got a blowout that I am quite jealous of, if I'm being honest with you. And he had an experience where he went out with a man and that man rejected him for being a man. I'm going to show you this story time in a bit, but it led to a lot of conversation and debate, and I wanted to take you through it and give you guys my reaction to it. That rhymed.
Just had a man pick me up for a date. He asked me if I was a man in the car. I said yes. This man turns around and takes me back home. Now, this is a very prime example of somewhat fragile masculinity, but also dishonesty. Not on my end, but on the end of the suitor. I met him last Friday at a club when I was out with my girlfriend. At some point, we duck off, we're talking, we're chatting, we're dancing, we're like really having a good time. We're throwing banter back and forth, we're being flirty, all these things. Mind you, I'm flat-chested as fuck. I am not a woman. I'm just a very beautiful man. Proceeds to kiss me, XYZ, right? Has been texting me every day since last Friday when I gave him my number. He proceeds to tell me in the car, I don't really know how to ask this, or, I really just don't know how to bring this up, but are you a man? And I looked at him and I was like, yes, I am. I'm just a very feminine man. He pulls over and he's like, I just want to sit over and just like kind of talk about this for a second. I've never been in this position before, so I'm just like not really sure how to handle it. I had an inkling of a thought, but I didn't want to ask you and you be offended if you were not. However, it's just not something that I'm into particularly. And I think that's part of a bigger conversation as it relates to Black men being interested in just feminine energy, period. He proceeded to apologize and he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just like felt like I needed to get this off my chest and at least just ask. But if I'm being honest, I was just like, okay, yeah, like that's fine. Like no harm, no foul. Like it's all good. He's like, is it okay if I just, turn around and take you back home? I'm like, absolutely. Yes, please. We sat there in silence as he did a U-turn and literally dropped me back off. But it goes to show that sexuality truly is a spectrum. And while people may not be into whatever parts people have or whatever the case may be, people are just attracted to energy, period, which is okay. That's totally fine. I completely respect that. I'm not one of those gays that are like, I'm going to go get the trade and do this, that, and the third. That's really not my vibe. And if you are, I mean, pop off queen, do your big one. But I guess my biggest problem is if you had an inkling of a thought or you felt any type of way, you should have quite literally just asked and been honest from the very beginning. Here, I spent an hour and a half getting ready for a date, not really into it, but like I was like open to, just seeing what happens, what would, transpire out of the whole situation. And yet, here we are. Now, this is a first for me. I've never had this happen to me before. This is something new to me. I'm not humbled in the slightest because I'm a bad bitch. Look at me. Like, Hello? And I know this is not in vain. I know that God has a partner for me out in the world, wherever he may be. But that shit was crazy as fuck. And for my theys, my girls, my dolls out there in the world, y'all be safe out there. Truly just be safe. Because for a slight moment in time, I was actually kind of scared for a minute. But yeah, y'all, I don't know. Am I tripping? Y'all let me know what y'all think because I've quite literally never experienced anything like this before. Like, oh my God, I'm like kind of floored. But anyway, on to the next, babes. That's fine. To Mr. Sir, good luck to you. And yeah, I don't know, y'all. It's just so funny. I'm like literally just sitting here in silence, like, oh my God, like I need to like talk to someone about this. But anyway, okay. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I don't know.
So I gotta be honest with you guys. I was not expecting to see the reaction that this video got on social media because to me, this is a fairly straightforward story, right? Donnie is a feminine gay guy. He went out in public. This guy was attracted to him, asked him out on a date, then asked him a question about his gender. Donnie is a confident, open, feminine gay man. Didn't even think that he was being seen as a transgender woman. And the date ended respectfully. And social media has really decided to criticize Donnie for not disclosing, which I thought was a really interesting and fascinating thing because it brought up the question of whether or not that would even be necessary, right? Donnie is thinking, I am engaging with a man who is attracted to me as a man. Donnie had no reason to think that he wasn't attracted to him. I mean, they made out in the club, right? And one of the things that stood out to me is how strange it is that he would suspect that Donnie was a man, but wouldn't say anything about it, to the point of actually showing up to the date.
Y'all are not saying the quiet parts out loud when it comes to this Donnie situation, so I'm going to say it because nobody can beat my ass. Donnie put himself in that situation because a lot of gay men get off on trying to turn out straight men. 2, isn't this what the LGBT community has been fighting for? And even your allies like me fighting against violence against you guys. So you find a man who is a straight man, and he's like, I don't swing that way, Donnie. And he's respectful. And he turns around and he takes you home. He doesn't go off on you. He's not violent with you. He simply said that's not what he does, but you still had an issue. So we finally are finding men, straight men, who are not violent towards anyone against the LGBT community, and you guys still have something to say about it.
Oh my God.
And I feel like you guys need to take some kind of accountability in some of this because you guys do like to put yourself in situations where you think you can turn out some straight men. Some of them, yes, you can. Some of them are low down.
Oh my God.
But there are men like the one that was with Donnie that was like, I'm straight. There's nothing wrong with, who you are, but that's just not who I am. And respectfully took him home. And then Donnie was like, oh, he's just fragile. A fragile man would have gone off on you. A fragile man would have done God knows what. So we're all happy that nothing bad happened to you. But the problem is Donnie's ego got hurt.
No, not
Donnie's
really.
ego got hurt because he could not turn out the straight man. That's why he came on the internet. That's what the issue is. It has nothing to do with the man being fragile. It's just that Donnie could not turn him out.
Oh my God.
A lot of y'all who are delusional are talking about, oh, that man knew. He had an inkling.
Oh my
Even
God.
if he had an inkling, in which he did, and he said he was being respectful, by the way.
Oh my God.
This man seemed like he was incredibly emotionally intelligent, first of all. Do you know how hard it is to find men who are emotionally intelligent? He's like, I did not want to disrespect you over the phone because they've only been talking for a week after meeting at the club. So they never really saw each other outside of the club. He's like, I don't want to disrespect you, so that's why I want to ask you in person. And once the answer was confirmed, he's like, oh, I don't swing that way.
Oh my God.
He's allowed to change his mind. He's allowed to say, yeah, no. I didn't think this is what I thought it was, so this is not what I do. And he was so respectful. I'm so
You should be
confused on the
thankful.
entitlement. And
You
again,
should be
it's
thankful.
Donnie's ego got hurt. That's what his ego got hurt. That's what it is. That's all it is.
First of all, you're not an ally. You are not an ally at all. Because if you were an ally, if you were in community with trans women, with femme gay men, you would know that we don't have to force these men into our bedrooms. And mind you, one of the things that's sort of interesting about this story is that I saw that the tides sort of turned when he started to post more full body images of him, right? Now, for the record, Donnie is a very fashionable blogger who lives out here in Los Angeles, right? Donnie has plenty of footage on social media of what he looks like and what his appearance is. I definitely think that Donnie is very beautiful. I definitely think that Donnie is very feminine. Like, I just know that Donnie smells good. I just know that Donnie is moisturized and probably smells like cocoa butter and some perfume that I cannot afford, right? But I don't know if Donnie looks like a cis woman in a way where it would require him to disclose that he's a man. He gives very feminine man to me. Now, with all of that in mind, we're going to watch Donnie's response to the way that people are responding on social media.
First and foremost, I did not expect all of this discourse in my comment section. I didn't. But now that I have y'all here and I'm not as emotional or shaken up, let's clear some things up here, okay? Number one, a lot of people have been like, you should just be grateful that you got home safely. I am very much grateful that I got home safely. I'm very grateful for that, okay? Number two, I get a lot of comments like this. You should have told him ahead of time. Now, with that, here's the thing. While, we could be out at the club, it was dark, whatever, even outside when my friends and I got into our Uber, he pulled me over to the side and was like kissing me and introducing himself to my friends and this, that, and the third. So I just didn't feel the need to
Yeah.
be like, oh, by the way, hi, I'm Donnie. I'm a man. No one's gonna do
Exactly.
that. Y'all don't go up to people and be like, oh my God, hi, my name is Shaquila and I'm a woman. Like,
Yeah.
be fucking for real. Like, be serious, okay? All in all, I'm not saying that he handled the situation badly. My biggest qualm with all of this is that we had been texting for a week. When he mentioned in the car that he had an inkling, he said, I had an inkling probably a few days ago. However, I just didn't know how to bring it up and not be offensive. Which to me, I'm like, well, if you had a thought or an inkling of anything, you quite literally
should
could
have said
have just
something.
texted me and just asked that. And I think I cleared this up with another young lady in my comment section where I said, had he asked me over text, it would have been less jarring. But to have me in a car with him and then ask me, if I was an actual woman, I would have told him to take me home, period.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, I have no ill will towards this gentleman. I'm not making this to be like, he's wrong and he blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying, y'all. The point is, communication is key. If you are unsure about anything, someone you're seeing, someone you're dating, and you want to ask questions, as difficult as they may be, it's important to have those conversations ahead of time. It saves you embarrassment, and it also saves embarrassment or fear for the other person on the other side. You know what I mean? And to you homophobic fucks out here in the world, let me tell y'all something. The girls who are like, oh my God, now they want the streets to want them too, and blah, 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 blah. Pause, babe. A lot of y'all will be surprised that your straight counterparts and your men do want us femme gays. They do want the trans girls. They do want the dolls. Like, let's be fucking for real. But I don't know, y'all. I, again, did not expect all this discourse and people just having all these opinions. But I'm just wanted to clear some things up for everybody. That way that we are all aligned. We are all in tune. And yeah, we're all on one accord now. Okay. And for the people who were like, I'm so glad that you're safe and it could have been much worse. I agree. Thank y'all so much for the love and the support. Like I said, there was like a split second where I was a little scared because I was like, why are we pulling the car over? However, he was a gentleman. He was kind. He was nice. He brought me back home. And that's the most respectful thing that he could have done. I'm not saying that was the part that was wrong. That wasn't the part that was wrong. To me, the part in all of this that was wrong was that you had an inkling a few days ago. You could have cleared that up ahead of time. It could have saved us all of this weirdness, awkwardness, me spending time to get ready and you having to drive all the way over here to waste gas to like come get me and then preparing to take me out to dinner. So that's it. That's all. Okay. I hope everybody got it all cleared up. If y'all have questions, comments, concerns, feel free to get in the comment section if you'd like. But yeah, I just thought that I would get that off my chest. Also, good morning. Happy Friday.
This conversation revealed a lot of layers of people's transphobia to me personally, because one of the things that really stands out to me is that Donnie is not a self-loathing person. But the narrative that people want to go with is that Donnie is out there to desperately trick straight men for some sense of validation. And the only reason people buy into that narrative is because for a lot of people, that narrative is way more believable than the narrative of a man, especially one who identifies as heterosexual, intentionally seeking out transgender women. And as I've spoken about many times on this platform, one of the things that really drives me insane about this is that a lot of you guys will just never be privy to these conversations. You're never going to really be privy to the reality that most of us experience. Most of us experience heterosexual men dominating our romantic life. Regardless of how you may personally feel about that, that has at least been my experience. That if a man expresses attraction to me, he's typically a heterosexual man. When I heard this story, I immediately thought that he assumed that Donnie was a transgender woman. That's not hard to imagine, right? Someone who is feminine, who you perceive as being designated male at birth, who you're attracted to, you're going to maybe suspect that they may be a transgender woman. I do think that for this particular man, the deciding factor was his identity. A lot of men do really draw a line between dating feminine men and dating transgender women. Now, I know a lot of transphobes out there probably don't understand that, right? But a feminine man and a transgender woman are not the same gender. For a cis man who's identifying as heterosexual, it is going to bother him in multiple different ways to date a man who is openly gay. If he's not a person who identifies as a gay man, he's probably not going to be okay with that. And I do sort of get the vibe that Donnie experienced what a lot of transgender women experience, where there are men who are attracted to us in these dark rooms when no one can look at them. But when it comes to actually taking you out, when it comes to humanizing you, when it comes to claiming you publicly, well, that's another issue. I think this man was hoping for Donnie to be a trans woman on her path to becoming more feminine. And there are a lot of men who really enjoy catching a trans girl at that particular moment in her life because they get to kind of define that femininity. There's a lot of men who are going to be open to pursuing Donnie if he identified as a transgender woman. I think a lot of people really don't understand that it is fairly common for men who are curious about transgender women to show up to the date, sit in the car, and refuse to go anywhere with them. It's really common. I remember that was something I experienced quite a bit when I was younger. When I accepted that there's no man on this earth who deserves private access to my body when he refuses to claim it publicly, my dating pool got a bit better. And I think that this was just a guy who hadn't fully thought about this, right? And they don't want to go out in public with a feminine gay man if they feel that that conflicts with their sexuality. They may be able to go out and be social with you, but this was a guy who was clearly interested in dating. And even if he is physically attracted to Donnie, he's really only interested in him if he identifies as a woman.
Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Maybe I am. Am I the villain? I don't think I'm the villain.
Man, shut this shit all the way up. Because the truth of the matter is, there was a point in the video where you were like, well, I'm flat chested. Sir, there are women that are flat chested. Okay? And thank God that he kept calm. The fact that you're trying to represent this conversation as fragile masculinity, fragile means that somebody is brittle. That means that they're hurt. This man wasn't hurt. Okay? He was calm and reserved enough to get your ass back home, not do shit, not put his hands on you, not worry about what other people might think. He thought about himself, and you in that car and in that moment. right? He could have been upset. But he said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop you off. And I'm probably going to forget this ever happened. Okay. You then told that story and took that story to the internet for some goddamn clout. You're weird. You're weird as fuck.
You're weird,
But then in a
actually. You're
follow-up
weird as
video,
fuck, actually.
someone said that you should have told him or whatever. And like me, I'm a cisgender man. I look like a man for the most part. I'm not going to go up to a woman and be like, yeah, I'm cisgender man. But you know that your presentation is feminine. But you are a man. You know this, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
there
why he
could have
didn't
been
say
a
he was a woman.
conversation
Oh
where,
my
hey, I
God.
just want.
Why do you believe that femininity is a performance for men? When you listen to this woman talk about this mythical heterosexual man who we've never met, right? She is so defensive of him, right? We are dating the same men. Men who are abusive to cis women are typically abusive to trans women. Do you know why a lot of them choose to abuse trans women? Because they know that cis women will blame them for it. They know that we live in a society that overwhelmingly centers heterosexual men, that tries to say that everyone who isn't a heterosexual man needs to go through essentially this humiliation ritual where they present their gender and the heterosexual man validates it. Our society encourages you to view heterosexual men as basically infantile. So you think that this guy made out with him at the club, exchanged numbers with him, spoke to him for an entire week, suspected that he was a man, and at no point in this scenario could have maybe saved a bit of time by bottom lining this and asking a direct question, right? Donnie's perspective is he's out at the club with his girls, right? He runs into this guy that he thinks is a gay man who likes him, right? They make out, they exchange numbers. What did he do wrong? And Donnie is right to say that most of you don't stop and have a whole conversation about your gender because that's not a natural thing most people do. Most people don't do that. Then there's this whole conversation people are having about how, well, you know, he was drunk and this and this and that. I don't know about y'all, but there's no amount of alcohol and no amount of like hot, sexy women that will ever make me interested in one. To the disappointment of the sapphics in my audience, right? I'm straight. I don't like women, right? I've been very open about that, very clear about that. Do they still try? Sure. Are there gorgeous women who flirt with me all the time? Yes. You guys should see some of the women that flirt with me. Oh my God. If I were, if I were a lesbian, I would pull. But I'm not, right? I just have short hair. But my frustration is that a lot of people really just don't want to understand that men can desire trans women. You have to buy into this narrative that the only way someone could ever engage with a person who's trans or a femboy or a gay dude, right, is if they trick them by being feminine. And that's the thing I want you guys to unpack probably the most. I don't have to chase men. And I don't know why biological women think that trans women need to do that. You think that a trans woman can be so beautiful and gorgeous and bodacious that she would need to disclose to a man that she's transgender. And then you also believe that that guy like wouldn't be interested actually in her as a trans woman. It's really weird. Why would you entertain the premise that a trans woman can look like a beautiful cis woman and not entertain the premise that a man who identifies as heterosexual would want to date one? Like, I know why. It's because you're transphobic, right? Like, I know it's why, right? It's because you see transgender women as men. That's also why you conflated Donnie, who is a very obviously feminine gay man, in my opinion, with trans women, right? You look at trans women and femme gay men as virtually the same, right? But they're not. And that's the ironic part of this story, right? Because again, I think this guy was looking for a trans woman. That's really the only thing that makes sense, right? Because here's what you have to accept about this story. Whether he was into it or not, there is a certain degree of acceptance there. If he suspected it and still showed up on the date, he accepted part of it. And here's the funny part about that. I think a lot of people, they paint these pictures of violence against transgender women who don't disclose, because that is the only scenario that you guys imagine transgender women as being in with men, where everyone is repulsed. No one desires trans women. No one desires femme gay men. Like, everyone is repulsed by them universally. And the straight men who could be tricked by them need to be protected, right? That's the only premise you entertain. And it's insane because in my life, I respect that you're a transphobe and you don't accept this, but most of the men who express attraction to me are going to identify as heterosexual men. I have 4 partners. 2 of them identify as bi/pan interchangeably. The other 2 identify as heterosexual. I know that's confusing to people who believe that men who are attracted to women are only attracted to biological women, cis women, whatever. But like, it is just such a standard in my life. What's interesting to me about this story too is that a lot of people are not understanding how disclosure typically goes. Most of the time when I tell men that I'm a trans woman, they don't care. They do not care. And I know that you want them to care. That's the funny part about this. A lot of you guys are expecting men to do this loud expression of rejection. You are expecting for them to sit up and say, "Ugh, that's fucking disgusting," instead of accepting that maybe they like it and maybe they're not ashamed of it. I've been in relationships, for most of the time that I've been on YouTube, right? I met my primary partner at one of my favorite dive bars that I go to, a dive bar that would definitely be considered a straight bar, right? And for whatever reason, people are obsessed with this idea that these men aren't straight. And they also think that these men care about you saying that they're not straight. That's also the funny part about it. You guys are functioning under this mythology of heterosexuality. Most men who identify as straight are not interested in trans women or femboys or anything like that, right? I'm with you there. But the fact of the matter is, whether you agree with that label or not, that is going to be the label most of them use. And also what you kind of see in this particular scenario, right? What does he say to Donnie? He says, "I've never been in this situation before." He's not angry. He's attracted to Donnie. But he's never been attracted to a person who looks like Donnie, who doesn't identify as a woman. So for him, it's going to be a learning curve. And frankly, he's not interested because he's not interested in dating a man, right? Like, he's just not. And I think a lot of you guys don't see what this actually is because you're so fucking transphobic. You want to believe that Donnie didn't disclose the truth of who he was when he did. He was living the truth of who he was out loud. This guy made an assumption or had a curiosity about him, didn't know too much about him, but asked him out on a date. I'll just say this. I've been in scenarios where men have asked me up front, "Am I a trans woman?" And when I say yes, I'll say there's probably about 15% of those men who will be like, "Oh, I'm not interested," right? For a lot of men, they're still interested. In fact, for some of these men, they're going to be even more interested. And what's sad to me about this video is it's clear that this woman sees that interest as valuable, as important, when it's pedestrian, I think, for most of us. Most of us would rather have partners who respect us regardless of the label that they use, right? I think a lot of cishet women do not understand how much they justify a lot of the premises, the false premises that these straight men try to use. Like, why do you believe that he would go that far out of his way as a man, taking what you know of men? Why do you think he would go that far and not be interested? And again, this tide kind of changed once Donnie started posting full body pictures and videos of himself, because Donnie's very feminine, but has a very kind of like slender, well-built masculine body, right? You know, like that's the reality of it. So you really would have to suspend a lot of disbelief, in my opinion, to think that the nails, the long hair, and, you know, the makeup made him so feminine that even after kissing him, right, he didn't know. I really think that that is an unlikely story. He knew that Donnie was male. He wasn't sure if Donnie identified as a man or a woman. But let's watch one more video.
Out loud when it comes to this Donnie situation, so I'm going to say it because nobody can beat my ass. Donnie put himself in that situation because a lot of gay men get off on trying to turn out straight men.
Now she just done told a bald-faced ass lie. Now you need your ass whooped for telling this lie on this damn boy. And let me just say this. Ooh, this finna go over y'all head, but we're not even talking about trans women. How in the hell y'all go from men being DL, not disclosing that they like men, and they go be with you, to, oh, it's these gay boys. They making all these men gay. They making them gay. They trying to force them to, what the fuck? I ain't gonna lie. Now, when if we're talking about trans, but we're not. This is just a gay boy that wearing a wig. Now, trans women, I ain't gonna lie, you do gotta squint your eye a little to see, because they taking medication to change their voice, to make them have breasts, like their body becomes softer, their structure. Now, if you gonna talk about trans, then yeah, like, you do gotta look, bitch, because you don't know. But let's continue.
2, isn't this what the LGBT community has been fighting for? And even your allies like me fighting against violence.
Girl, I know you playing. Y'all are saying that you should be glad he didn't off you. You're promoting violence. Mm-hmm. You are the same women saying that y'all will pick a bear, but the nigga get a green light if he off
Exactly
off somebody for not disclosing who they
exactly.
are. So a faithful husband should be allowed to off his lying, cheating ass wife, right? Like, come on, do that sound right? It don't.
No.
Y'all really still promoting violence. Why? Lord Jesus. Let's just keep going.
Find a man who is a straight man, and he's like, I don't swing that way, Donnie. And he's respectful, and he turns around and he takes you home. He doesn't go off on you. He's not violent with you. He simply said that's not what he does, but you still had an issue.
Woo, we Lord Jesus. First of all, you got that shit totally wrong. Donnie didn't approach this boy. This boy approached him. They laughed, danced, all kind of shit all goddamn night. But what y'all don't understand is the boy bi-curious. This boy that approached Donnie, he's clearly bi-curious. And how I know that he was curious is because he had already said from the jump, before he dropped him off in that car, he said, I had a feeling, I just didn't want to ask. What straight man finna be afraid to ask another man? Are you a man?
Come on.
No, he was curious and got scared.
Exactly.
Come on now. From the beginning, if he felt like there was a man, why, after they left whatever club, whatever they was at, why did he find Donnie and kiss him? Hug him or kiss him or something? Showing him to his friends and all that shit. Then they talked on the phone for a week. This man was trying to build up the courage to get some head from that boy.
Let's talk about it.
Are you a woman? I just want to know.
Yes.
That was his way of just not, he didn't go through with it.
Yep.
And guess what? He gonna spin that block, and he gonna reach out to Donnie, and he gonna get exactly what he wanted.
No, he's not. No, he's not. It is so common for men who I disclose casually to that I'm transgender to rapidly push the conversation towards me giving him oral. It is probably the most common shitty response I get to it. You would think it would be, oh no, fuck you, you dirty faggot. But it's actually just usually them asking to then shift the conversation from this sort of fake respectful conversation that we were having to one where they expect for me to take them to the car and give them head. And for a lot of these dudes, They really don't care. They really do not care that the person who's giving them head is not designated female at birth, especially if it's a bitch like me. Let's just be frank, right? It's one of those things where it's so common. It is so common. It is probably, keeping in mind, again, I'm 35. I came out as trans when I was 19. It is probably the reaction I'm the most traumatized to. These men are not reciprocal. And some of these men kind of get off on degrading you in a way and using your mouth, we'll just say. And it's really demeaning. It's really fucking demeaning. And it is a really common thing. And there are some men who believe that actually transgender women give better head. Some men will prefer transgender women because they think that they're particularly talented at it. Right? And I know that men will even have conversations with each other about this shit, right? And there's a whole world that cis women are not privy to. And it kind of drives me a little insane because I wish you were, so that we could have these conversations and we could stop acting as if these things aren't happening. It genuinely drives me a little insane that so many people think that trans women want to trick men, because we don't need to. These men do not leave us alone. And I really do mean that, right? Like, keeping it a buck, when I leave the house, I get swarmed and I hate it. I hate it. It's either men hitting on me on the street or people recognizing me. I hate it. I hate it so fucking much. I don't need to trick straight men into my bedroom. I've never needed to do that. And I think it reveals a lot about someone's psyche when they believe that that's what you need to do. Because you would have to believe that straight men are so impressive, so unique, so great, so good, that they're worthy of risking my life. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to risk my life to suck your dick. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I don't know why people think that that's a thing. And it's really aggravating because you know what it does? It portrays your dehumanized understanding of who transgender women are. You think femininity exists purely for the satisfaction of a man. The only reason a person designated male at birth would want to be feminine is because he wants to trick a man into doing something sexual that he wouldn't otherwise do. That is insanity. And some of you do need to accept, you don't have to like it, but you do need to accept that there are men who like that shit. And I know that a lot of times the subtext of most of this conversation is that you would never want to date a man who would be into that shit. And that is a completely separate conversation from him disclosing, right? As an openly queer man, right? That's a completely separate conversation. You just don't like the idea of a man who identifies as straight being with a trans woman or being with a man who he thought was a trans woman, right? You don't like it. You have issues with it. That's why you're conjuring these images of him being violent and how thankful Donnie should be that he made it home. Because your only acceptable way of reacting to trans women in relationships with cis men is saying that they need to be honest and disclose, and that trans women should always offer up their gender to straight men for validation. It's insane. And most of you, I think, don't see it because you're living beneath it. You are operating in defense of these straight men who, again, do not need to be forced into my bedroom. But do you know what happens when you do that? You create plausible deniability, right? You create circumstances where people can get away with abuse because they can always argue that they were tricked. And we've seen in several cases now where a trans woman will have an intimate partner, then he will kill her, and he will argue that he was tricked. And you go through the phone and it turns out not only does he like trans women, he was coming over and getting his back blown out for free. And he was ungrateful for it and decided to kill her. You know, that's the gag of it. And these men rely on you doing this. They rely on you mindlessly defending them because they're straight men. And on that note, there's another layer of this conversation where a lot of men, when they ask these questions of, are you a woman? What is your gender or whatever? Like I said, sometimes the reaction to that is, okay, now give me head. A lot of these men like to leverage what they understand as their validity as heterosexual men over the people that they see as being too queer to be respected or protected, right? They really do. They are expecting for the newly transitioning trans woman to be desperate for validation. They're expecting for her to be eager to please in a way that a cis woman typically wouldn't be, in a way that a biological woman wouldn't typically be. And some of these men will specifically target trans women, gay men, right? Trans men, right? Also, they can kind of use that triangulation. A man who needs to be turned out is not a man that is desirable. But you know what it reveals when we talk about this? That for a lot of cis-het women, that is what they feel they need to do, right? They need to convince this man who isn't interested in them to be interested in them. When I think this conversation would be a lot more easy to understand if cis women understood that trans women also command attention from men, straight men, and that is pedestrian. It is really boring to me that straight men are attracted to me. It's a nuisance, like I keep saying. It is not like this desirable, preferable thing, right? I kind of wish that most of my relationships have not been with straight men, because frankly, the two that I'm currently dating are really the only good ones I've ever dated. Like, I'm just going to be very honest with you. Straight men are not great. And I honestly think that a lot of cis-het women have not woken up to that and will not wake up to that. And I think it's quite sad. But anyway, on that note, as per usual, please give me your thoughts in the comment box below. Also, by the way, I have a brand new video over on Movies in My Closet about Pony Boy, which is a great film about an intersex protagonist. It's about a sex worker who gets into issues with the mob, and I think it's a really fun film. Go check that out. And also, if you're interested in joining my members, right now, you guys should have some exclusives available for members only. Right now on Patreon, I uploaded my full reaction to Taylor Swift's new album. I'm sure you guys can probably guess how I feel about it as a goth, but still, I thought that there were some very interesting conversations to be had, so I thought that I would make a video about it nonetheless. I want to give a big shout out to the last 3 people who joined my Patreon. Shout out to Mike Ladato, Vincent Doan, and Pre, and huge shout out to Studio Room, who became a annual member, which is an option, by the way. I really appreciate the annual memberships on my Patreon. They helped me immensely, especially right now. So thank you so much to the people who have decided to support me for an entire year. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment box below, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Anyway, as per usual, I want you to always remember and never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.